Hey everyone, Gill Gross here. Post-match, Daniil Medvedev versus Alexander Zverev, Monte Carlo 2023, round of 16. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. For the second time in the last 3 tournaments, Daniil Medvedev has edged out Alexander Zverev. At Indian Wells, it was 7-5 in the third set after a couple of tiebreak sets. Here in Monte Carlo, it is a third set tiebreak that goes the way of Medvedev. Zverev served for the match in the second set at 5-4, served for the match once again in the third set at 5-4. Such a frustrating couple of results for Zverev, who's still looking for his signature win, his first signature win of 2023 after missing the second half of 2022. And the closest he has come to earning that signature win has been his last 2 matches against Medvedev, where he's come up just short. This match was almost comically close. So many stats that you can look at where they practically mirrored each other, from second serve points won percentage, break point conversion percentage, winners to unforced errors, and obviously the most important, total points won, and what we saw on the scoreboard was very, very tight. These are players who play a very similar style. It's been a weird head-to-head at times when it comes to the product that they've put out on the court, because both of them are rather passive from the baseline in their natural state. And in that ways, they almost counteract each other in a way that I think they have trouble playing well against each other. But I think that the quality in this match was pretty high. And Medvedev, the clutch factor is kind of what comes through for him again. And when you look at Medvedev kind of dominating this head-to-head since 2019, Zverev got off to a good head start when he beat Daniil a couple of times, 3 or 4 times, when he was a far better player than Daniil was, because Zverev, as a teenager and in his early 20s, was much better than Medvedev. But ever since 2019, Medvedev has had the upper hand. And I do think that there are some tactical reasons for that. I think Medvedev generally serves and returns a little bit better than Zverev, especially when you bring the second serve into play historically. I also think that Medvedev does a great job of keeping the contact point low on Zverev's two-handed backhand, which affects Zverev's ability to be offensive on it. Medvedev has won what looks like, I'm going to count this up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 of his last 8 matches against Zverev. Perhaps the most important factor here has been just the mental fortitude. Perhaps, because certainly in the last 2 matches, it certainly seemed that way. So what I want to do in this analysis is mainly zoom in on the big moments and the big points. And talk about, for Zverev, is it unlucky? Is it unclutch? I think you lean more. Look, there's both. I mean, at the end of the day, it's brutal to be that close. Anytime you have a couple of match points, you could have won the match. But I also don't think it's really a coincidence that we've seen this happen twice in a row for Zverev, especially thinking about what the pattern has been simply throughout his career, where we tend to be really confident that he has the level. We know he has the level. And it's just, is he going to bring the level when it really, really matters? Let's talk about the match points first. He had 2 of them, both of them in the tiebreak. And then we'll talk about some other stuff that happened when he tried to serve out the match. First match point, second serve, Medvedev, and Zverev sailed this backhand return. Second serve return on the backhand. There are few explanations for this miss outside of choking. It wasn't a great second serve. Zverev wasn't trying to be aggressive on the return. He was just trying to put it back in play, and he sailed it, plain and simple. Second match point, they got into a baseline rally. This one was on Zverev's serve. Zverev missed his first serve, as he did far too often down the stretch of the tiebreak, or in the last couple points of the tiebreak, for sure. So second serve, they're in a baseline rally. Medvedev hit this short backhand cross court. It was short, which is usually a bad thing. You want to hit it deep, not short, unless you're hitting a drop shot. But Zverev wasn't tight on the baseline. And this happens to Alex on a fairly regular basis. He was pretty far behind the baseline. So even though Medvedev hit it short, it actually got low on Zverev. He couldn't really get up to the ball, and it got low on him. And Zverev, because the contact point got so low, he had to massage it back cross court. He didn't really get anything on the cross court backhand. And Medvedev, remember, Medvedev's down match point. He's completely fearless. He recognizes the opportunity, rips a backhand down the line, rips a forehand cross court. With Zverev on the defensive, he basically forces an error with the forehand cross court. Took offensive in that rally, and he wins it. Those are the 2 match points. The Zverev not being tight on the baseline thing, I'm not saying that that is definitely nerves, but I definitely thought that the court position got a little bit more passive under pressure for him because that's his comfort level. But that was certainly an area where it hurt him on that second match point. I thought the biggest problem, though, as a whole, as we move away from the match points and talk about the big moments writ large, and I do think that this, what I'm about to explain, is a big problem for Zverev against Medvedev always. But the first serve gets neutralized. And look, this is tough, okay? This is Monte Carlo at night, and it was cold. And that's ridiculously slow conditions. Pretty ridiculous. So no one is going to really serve all that effectively. But Zverev could have done better here. There are issues with how Zverev serves against Medvedev in particular. Zverev does very well to hit his serve very fast and make a high percentage, which are great things. But I don't think he hits good enough targets, especially on the wide serve on the deuce side. What happened here against Medvedev is he did not hit his target wide to the deuce, and I want to actually pull up a photo here. Hold on, I need to put it in my program. So I'm going to show you a little diagram here of Zverev's spots wide to the deuce. There it is. So you saw when Zverev made first serves out wide on the deuce, he lost 10 points and won 9, which is obviously a terrible percentage when we're talking about first serves. Look at all those red dots. Look how many poor spots there are here. These are terrible wide serves. It's nowhere near the sideline. You're not getting the angle here. That is killing Zverev on the deuce side. It's killing him. You saw on the tee, he did better hitting his spots, and he won 11 points and lost 6 points. So that's on the deuce side. On the ad side, Zverev got predictable. Zverev hit 71% of his serves on the ad side up the tee. So Medvedev could lean that way. He was a little bit more successful on the ad side than he was on the deuce as a whole because he does have a good tee serve. But against Medvedev, the best serves are wide to take advantage of the deep return position. The best serves are wide. And Zverev does not hit that wide serve. He goes tee much better. I do think that there could be some body serves mixed in here, and that could do well, even though Medvedev stands far back. So Zverev, and I know it's cold, I know it's slow, I still think he could get more out of his serve. And if you watch the 2 times, the 2 games that he failed to serve out the match at 5-4 in the second, 5-4 in the third, he got no help from his serve. If you look at the tiebreak, 3 points in the tiebreak, Medvedev 3, Zverev 1. In such a tight third set tiebreak, that's your difference right there. I also found that whenever Zverev tried to serve and volley in the tiebreak or in those clutch moments, he kept missing his first serve. The serve and volley was a good play for him. I thought it worked for him as a whole, even though Zverev was only like 65% conversion rate at net, which is okay. It's fine. You know, on clay against Medvedev, I think it's fine. I shouldn't say against Medvedev. Just on clay, it's fine. but he kept missing the first serve when he tried to serve and volley. So Zverev's first serve as a whole completely neutralized in these big moments. The second serve, not much of an issue. There was one double fault under pressure in the second set, but second serve was not much of an issue, so you can give Alex credit there. There certainly was some passiveness. The transition game went away. I think he was much more willing to come forward when the pressure wasn't on. And I think Zverev is certainly at his best when he is moving inside the court and coming forward. He doesn't have the best volleys in the world, but man, he's also not the best finisher from the back of the court. He is rather precise, especially on the backhand. So I do think he has the ability to hit good approach shots and finish easy volleys. And I think he's at his best when he's coming forward behind both his forehand and his backhand. And the other thing was the court position. I mentioned that big point on match point, the second match point, but there were also some points where it felt like his court position was not giving him a chance to be an attacking player whatsoever. And then there was one point, I think it was in the second set, it was a rather large point when Zverev was trying to serve out the match, where Zverev's court position was so comically deep for no apparent reason that Medvedev hit a forehand drop shot winner that he could have hit in his sleep. And it's one thing to kind of retreat when you know that Medvedev has a short ball and he's going to be able to attack, but the point was in a rather neutral state, and Zverev was on the back fence. It was rather bizarre, and Medvedev saw it and finished with the drop shot. I thought he opened up the Medvedev drop shot quite a bit in these big moments. But I think the biggest thing, much bigger than the court position, and this comes down to also something that I definitely want to compliment Medvedev on. The biggest thing was the forehand to forehand exchange, which I saw a lot more of compared to when Medvedev and Zverev play. Usually they get into more backhand to backhand because of what they both prefer. They both just have a hubris in that cross-court exchange. They both think that they can win it. But in this match, and I thought maybe it was mostly Zverev's doing, but I don't know. Maybe it was also Daniil. They played much more forehand to forehand, and I thought Medvedev was the better player in that. Unless Zverev was kind of loose enough to really unleash his power and use his pace generation advantage, which he should have on the clay over Medvedev. I felt more often than not that was not the case under pressure. I think when the moment was really, really big, I loved Medvedev in the forehand to forehand. First of all, he was hanging in there in the cross-court exchange where theoretically he could be overpowered. Zverev traditionally has a heavier forehand, but Medvedev's forehand, as we've covered a lot over the course of the last couple months, is heavier than what we are used to seeing. And that serves him well here. But it wasn't the cross court necessarily that was giving Medvedev the advantage here. It was his forehand down the line. Zverev kept missing. Zverev was not changing direction well down the line out of this forehand to forehand. Medvedev was. Medvedev changes direction quite nicely out of the forehand cross-court pattern. He times it well. He has that nice kind of flat trajectory on it that even produces some bit of side spin sometimes that tails away off the court. But Zverev has the opposite. Zverev tends to hook it. It tends to spin back into his opponent when he tries to go down the line, so it's a little bit easier to neutralize. And on this occasion, we can go through the big moments here. First of all, in the tiebreak from 3-2, Zverev missed two in a row. One of them was a down the line. One of them was more of an inside-out change of direction. But he missed two forehand changes in a row to put Medvedev up 5-2. He made one. He made one down 4-5, which was a big one. It ended up setting an easy volley a couple of shots later. But then at 7-all, and this was the death sentence, this was the nail in the coffin for Zverev. At 7-all, he missed one long, and I hated the shot selection here at 7-all. Zverev was well behind the baseline. He was off the court. Medvedev hit a good forehand trade cross court, and Zverev felt the need to pull the trigger for some reason. I don't get why in such a big moment. In Zverev's defense, he didn't miss by much. That's the defense. So you could argue with me. You could tell me, well, he almost made it, so it was a good shot. But I hated the shot selection. I didn't think it was there. He was 5 to 6 feet behind the baseline, outside the singles sideline, off balance, and he went down the line, big down the line. To me, it's the wrong shot. And it was the fatal mistake as Medvedev converted his first match point on a service winner out wide. Remember, 3 points in the tiebreak. Medvedev 3, Zverev 1. I continue to be so impressed with Zverev's mental fortitude, his physical endurance. Look, I still maintain, I still think that the tank is going to run empty for him at some point. I don't think he can win Monte Carlo. But that doesn't mean that I am not thoroughly impressed with Daniil. I apologize if this was more of a Zverev-centric analysis of this match, but at the end of the day, Zverev served for it not once, but twice. To me, had every opportunity to win it and kept dipping. Things kept happening under pressure that I felt the need to cover it as the most important thing that happened in this match and the main factor that really swung the match. So that's my read on it. That was my approach. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.